Welcome to this fourth, maybe, tutorial on the Bootstrap example intro systems that I've developed. This time we're going to look at the Theses Are Us branch. And you get there if you're using the Bootstrap bookmarks by bootstrap-example-intro, Theses Are Us. Then we get to this page. And we're going to download the zip file by clicking that button. And here's it in our downloads directory. We'll move it into the desktop, and then we're going to rename this. Let's say that we're making a site. We're using this as a template for a customer Quux site. So we'll call it Quux site. And then we'll import this into Eclipse because there is the .project definition that we've conveniently provided in Git. So we go up to Johnson, we look for Quux. Where are you? Here we are. Open and finish. And then we select the project, we go to refactor, we go to rename. And we're going to call it Quux site. Okay, there it is. Let's open up the index.html. There it is. And we need to enable live reloading. So we'll go plus here. Johnson, Quux site. That's good. And then we'll open index.html in Quux site. And we'll enable live reload, and we'll make it a little wider so that we get and then we'll just check by changing the title that everything is okay. So didn't save. We save, and now you can see that the title says Quux site, so we're kind of good to go. Okay, what the heck is this thing? This is just basically showing you something that kind of more looks like a regular old website. Our previous templates were kind of fragments of sites, and this looks like something that could, actually really be a site. And I spent about 30 seconds trying to think up an idea for a site, and I was staring at the bookshelf in my lab at all my students' theses, and I thought, what the heck, let's take a picture and make a little site out of that. So this is Theses Are Us, and let's look at how we implemented it. We're using, from Bootswatch, we're using the simplex theme. You can see that here. Let me just load style.css so I can get rid of this so you can see more. So we've got kind of the standard stuff up here. The only difference is we're going to start with the simplex theme, and then you can see in style we're going to make some changes like to the background color and so forth to make things a little different. So then we've got our style sheet. We've got the HTML5 shim for IE. We've got a pretty standard nav bar, but I'm making the links active. So one thing you can see is, it's harder to see unless you do something like this, but if we pull down this and we go to contact, you can see that the links actually work. Okay, they go to the section of the site. So I kind of fix that, and basically the way I did that is by putting in these anchors close to the respective sections where they're supposed to go to, so that the home is always going to be active. You can see it's interesting. You can't really see in this theme that the home is active. I don't know, that may be a bug in the theme. Anyway, but click on the About and you actually go to the About section of the site. Click on Contact, you actually go to the Contact section of the site. And then what I did is, we have the nav bar, and then I created 3 classes, one called Section 1, one called Section 2, and one called Section 3, corresponding to this section, the top section where it says Welcome Theses Are Us, the middle section that says Full Service Thesis Director Coming, and more or less the footer at the bottom. And Inside you can see in section 1 we've got welcome to Theses R Us. That's the only text in there. But if we go to style.css, we can see in section 1 we have a background image, Theses R Us.jpg. We use a little bit of padding to make this the right size. Again, as with any of these things, what I recommend is you fool around. So if you're wondering, well, what the heck does that 100 pixel thing do? I think the easiest thing to do is just delete it, okay, and find out why was that 100 pixels in there, okay? Delete it. See how it messes up the site, because you can always simply, recover by inserting it again. So this is why I go through this whole kind of rigmarole of loading it, creating a new project, setting up live reload. The reason why that's important, and I want to kind of get you to do that by default, is that then it allows you to play around. And with web development and this layout stuff, a lot of it is not that intuitive from just reading the code. It's a kind of an experimental process of figuring out how to get things to line up correctly. And in my experience, the easiest way to do it is when you're looking at these things, just start playing around with some of these values, and if you have it set up such that you can immediately see the impact of making a change, cognitively, you're going to figure out things a lot quicker. So, that's what I'm trying to do here. And we're changing the section 1 H1. So inside section 1 class, the H1 tag that appears, welcome to Theses R Us, we're going to make the font size 60 points, so we're making it a lot bigger and making it bold. And in the section 2, the H1 immediately below the section 2 header, which is this one right here, I believe, we're adding a little margin to it. So again, we could get rid of this, see what happens. Okay, you can see that kind of squishes it a little bit. I guess for whatever reason I didn't like that, so I put a little margin in to space it out. And so on and so forth. The well color is khaki. We can get rid of that, see what happens. Oh, it turns to that. That doesn't look good at all. So, I found using my MISC CSS color names, I went to this page and I just kind of looked around until I found one that seemed reasonable. Again, I'm not expecting you guys to be professional designers in this class. I'm actually kind of trying to get you guys to be efficient hackers, so that you can, use the stuff that's out there, quickly create something that, a full-on professional designer may go, oh, that color, it's off this gold and this gold, they don't really match. But, those are tweaks that someone later on can come in and fix. The goal here is to get something that has some appeal, passes the initial bar, definitely for functionality, but also for visual interest and appeal. And then it can you can turn it over to someone who really understands colors if that becomes important. Okay, so back to index.html, you can see we've got the section 1, we've got the section 2, and here, just to point out, we're using the more standard container row column design pattern for Bootstrap. And we're doing the traditional thing. We've got three interior columns, and they're we're using the laptop width. So MD means laptop, SM means tablet. So we're using the laptop kind of viewport size as our breakpoint between whether or not it's going to show up stacked or not. And then inside we use this class well, which creates this little embedded thing, and then I add this class well color that I've defined myself right here as a way of adding on to that particular div what the thing should look like. And inside we've just got this basic kind of stuff. Now you notice the section 2 about, okay, this is a good thing to check out. So what you could see is I've used this little CSS thing which says the first occurrence of the immediately nested version of H1 inside section 2 is going to get these style changes. And that's because we have an H1 occurring immediately below section 2, but then we have another div and a few more divs, and then we've got these H1s here. So what I was trying to do with this particular primitive, is say that only the immediately nested version of h1 within section 2, which is this guy, I want to have affected by these margins and not these other ones. So, just to see what the impact of that is, we can remove this, and now we see that we've actually impacted the margins not only at this h1 level, but all h1 levels inside section 2. I didn't like that, so I added this CSS greater than sign, so that it was only this first level of h1. I'll save it out, and things look, at least in my opinion, better. Okay, let's go back to this. Anything else you want to see? I don't think so. It's all pretty self-explanatory. So enjoy. I wish this. I guess I don't wish this was a real company, but I'm sure plenty of students would. I kind of forgot to show you one additional aspect of one additional approach to understanding how these layouts are accomplished. That's really important and useful to you, and it is complementary to the style that I've been showing you of basically deleting things from the style.css and seeing what the impact is. And that's using Chrome Developer Tools or Firebug to actually inspect elements. So one of the things that I find a little irritating about this particular layout is the fact that there is this little white line between the nav bar and this first section. And there's no obvious reason in my mind about why, I don't see anything in here that should lead to there being this little white line. So I want to show you kind of how you might use Chrome Developer Tools to figure out what's going on. So we can just basically click on the nav bar and go inspect element, and then we get the Chrome Developer Tools coming up here. And let's just kind of take a look at the nav bar. Okay, and so I click on the nav bar and I start reading through here, and very quickly I notice there's this border in the nav bar CSS rule. There's a border bottom definition of 1 pixel, and it's this crazy color. Okay, well that, maybe that's actually what's going on. Now the great thing about Chrome Developer Tools is actually if you double click on these things, you can actually change them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is change it to, blue, or blue. Okay, so if I do that, all of a sudden, hey, awesome, that's actually, change the color. This is the actual style that's producing that crazy white line. Okay, well, how might we fix that? Obviously we haven't actually, we've just changed the definition for this particular CSS rule. It's not going to fix things in general, but what we can do is now we can go and we can say, okay, we've got the navbar class. Let's say navbar border bottom : 0 pixels. Okay, and if we refresh, bar border bottom. If we refresh, oh, darn it. Okay, once again, it's good to show you mistakes. Okay, so what I noticed is I didn't type the dot here in the nav bar, so I did not redefine that class, but now you can see that I have overridden the border bottom that was in bootstrap-min.css with the navbar border bottom property from my style.css, and that's solely because, as it turns out, my style sheet is loaded after the boot swatch. or the Bootstrap style sheet. Okay, so with a little bit of hassle, or a little bit of fiddling around, you can see that we now have gotten rid of that 1 pixel white line. All is good with the universe.